Hi again, everybody. We're live. This is Mike DiMuccio. Welcome back to Aligning with Success. It is Monday, July 20th. The year is just racing by. I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't know, maybe not. I feel like it's been a kind of a pause, but still we're here we are toward the end of July, and it's just zooming by. I wanted to just take a minute, first of all, and congratulate some of the people that are on this call quite regularly who have qualified top PV for June. Let's see, there's Ruth and Robert Lowe, Bob and Sue Gruber. They're often on this call. They were posted today. Congratulations to top PGV as well. Again, somebody who we see a lot, Ruth and Robert Lowe. I'm not sure if Ruth is on yet, but we'll definitely send a shout out to her. Of course, there's a number of others, but I'm just sort of looking at people I see regularly on this call. Leo's guy, Felix, that's your guy, right, Leo? You're silver. Congratulations. He was last month's top sponsor for North America. That's pretty awesome. And also one of the new silvers in North America as well. So congratulations to Felix. You might want to extend that. And by the way, feel free to invite people to this call. The purpose of this call is to expand awareness and bring alignment to our agenda so that people feel more solid in their conviction, in their purpose, and their passion with what they're doing in their Nikken business and how that integrates into their life. You know, when our mind and our heart is not divided, you know what they say, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So when our mind and our heart is unified, then we have a much more effective way of communicating to others, and we come across as more credible and real to them. We've got Club Ki winners as well in the second quarter. Madeline Zaworski, well, congratulations to you, who's on the call. She's a consistent winner of this one. We also have Robert and Ruth Lowe, Bob and Sue Gruber. Let's see, who else do I know? Kimball Sargent, Jeff Avery Foy. Yoko's on the call. Congratulations to Yoko. She's a regular on this call. And congratulations on Club Ki. By the way, for those of you who don't know what the benefits are, you get 500 Nikken reward dollars that's a pretty nice benefit. I mean, that's a pretty nice chunk of change that you can apply towards your next Nikken purchase or sale. And what is a Club Ki? Just for the benefit of everybody, it's when help me out here, because I think it's 4,000 points 3 months in a row, and 50% of that volume needs to be retail volume. So what we have are people that are doing, number one, consistent volume. That's 3 months in a row, minimum 4,000 points, and half of that volume has to be at retail. So again, that's a strong indication of good retail business. So if you're looking for some information, hope you guys don't mind me sending people your way. Madeline and Yoko. In fact, maybe you could enlighten us on this call, because this call is a bit of a recap of the agenda that we had set for ourselves coming up to last week's Zoom-in event. So let's go ahead and get started with that agenda. Again, congratulations to those of you who are the June qualifiers for our incentives, our contests. And we begin the next quarter with July. So July, you're all in contention for July, August, September. Those 3 months are the next quarter for the Club Ki. And again, 4,000 points in volume, that's you and your group, but 50% of that volume has to come from retail business. Here's a question for you. And I did Club Ki last month, but I did. Let me just take care of that. If someone can answer. When they're measuring PGV volume, and they say 50% has to come from, it is PGV, right? Or is it PPV? It's PGV, right? And 50% has to come from retail. Does that include the retail volume from people on your team? It does. Okay, perfect. Excellent. So that's good. That's good to know. I've invited Sophia back because, hello, Sophia. She was part of this journey when we sort of set an intention a few weeks back, and I hope you've all had a chance to watch those videos if you haven't. Not last week's was fine, but the two previous to last week's in particular which was a sort of a part one and a part two, leading up to the Zoom-in event on Saturday. Where did I write it down? Oh, 91. So we had 91 participants at the Zoom-in event this past weekend on Saturday. And I'm not sure how many of you were on it, but I assume most of you were on it and had set an intention from the work that we were doing. So I just want to speak to that because not everybody, first of all, did. I would argue probably not everyone did the work consistently, which was what? And this is an open call, so you're free to unmute yourself. Just keep your background noise to a minimum if possible. I'm keeping this on gallery view. So, so what was the intention? Let's just do a real recap. What was it that we were doing, Barb? Go ahead.
We were inviting people to initially actually be part of Gary's call on the Tuesday night, which was a precursor of the Zoom-in call on Saturday, so that they would get a taste of what might be happening and be curious enough to know more and then log in for the Zoom-in event.
Okay, that was part of it.
Get
but
the invitation out to as many people as possible.
Okay, that's process. So that was part of the process, but what was really behind all that was setting an intention for new invites to this event. But even behind all that, it was what? What was the real purpose? The intention was just simply a way of applying what we were learning, what we were talking about. So what was the platform? What is it that we were trying to set in motion for all of you to become master what?
An introduction.
Nope. Masters at what, guys? Big picture.
Manifestation.
Yes. Masters at manifestation. So we move from being just people who are either being blown by the wind to people who set their sails and then create their own wind on top of it. And how you do that, of course, is by setting the intention and following the process that was laid out for us, a process which requires first and foremost to create coherence or alignment between the heart and the mind. Because if a house is divided against itself, it cannot stand. And many people have great intentions, but they don't have alignment. This is what's causing them not to achieve. And this is what's really, really important to grasp, that it's not enough to have an intention. There has to be alignment with that intention. And I would argue that that alignment is mental, emotional, physical. You know, your body needs to be doing stuff that's in alignment and congruent with what it is that you're intending. If you sit in your room and, you know, with the lights off and the doors closed and the phone's off, meditating all day long and not reaching out and contacting anybody, don't expect that there's going to be people showing up at an event. So we have to bring alignment to our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. That intention, that congruency, what Bob Proctor refers to as praxis, is the key to mastering the art of manifestation. So we did this exercise, first of all, to give you some familiarity with the process and to encourage you to do it so you can create an experience that you can own. And during this time, we had the benefit of Sophia and the experience that she was going through. She set an intention for the number of followers on her Instagram page. And we were part of that process as she discovered some nuances to the law of attraction, or nuances to this whole process of manifestation, that doubt of any kind sets back the manifestation. You know, it sets it back sometimes. So that was why we were doing all this. And then we applied this in a very specific way with respect to the event coming up, so that it would be a benefit to you, a benefit in terms of your business, that you could create an awareness, create an intention, and therefore govern yourself accordingly to produce a result. Now, before we do the recap on the result, or on what went right, what went wrong, Is anybody here, does anybody want to share what results they had with respect to Saturday's event? Any outcomes that we can point to? Anyone on the call?
I invited 12 people, Mike. 6 people showed up. I'm in the process of doing follow-up. I haven't been able to reach some of them. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that people have a little more freedom and they're not spending as much time at home.
Okay.
But
Well,
I will
that's good.
continue to do follow-up.
Question for you. What was your intention? What was the number?
20.
Okay. So we'll say 20 was the intention, 12 was the actual invitations, and 6 was the number of people that showed up. Now, if you take 6 into 20, that number is approximately 1/3. So,
I had tried to get 20, but I wasn't connecting with the people. I connected with the 12 and invited them and got intent from them, but only 6 of them followed their commitment.
well, and then in fact, if you went with 12 as the actual number connected with, and you had 6 people, that's even better than 1/3. So I would say 1/3 is that backstop, that law that we seem to encounter in our business invariably, that 1/3 of what you expect to happen happens. Now, why is that? I mean, we can argue why that is momentarily, but let's get some more results. Thank you for that part. Anyone else? Mary, yeah.
My intent was to have 10 people, and I contacted 25. And I did 2 videos on Facebook Live. And yeah, I had 2 people. There was actually a person that was here with me because he's having technical difficulties. So there was 92 on the call. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I had commitment from 6, and out of the 6, only 2 showed up. So that was very interesting phenomena for me.
2 of the 6 of being 1/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that number will keep coming up. I have no doubt about that. We'll have to look at that a bit more closely. But thank you for that. Anyone else?
Well, Mike, I invited 8, and I got 1. Actually, the one I got was the one I didn't expect to get. But basically, about 2 other people were unavailable and were okay for me sending the link of the recording, which I did today.
Okay.
But I didn't have actually a number in mind. Maybe that's because why the intention, like not having an actual number. Therefore somewhat scattered.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, that's a learning thing for me.
Most certainly. I mean, what we want to do right now, this call, is analyze the data, analyze the results, because if we can't make the correlation between the formula and the results, then we're going to still be operating blindly and not understand that it is science. This is a law. So it's really important that you admit the truth. You know, whether you would want to admit it on the call or not, at least admit it to yourself. How many people, and work your numbers that way. Because what we're going to find is that what's lacking ultimately is some degree of incoherence. There's a lack of coherence, and that's what the problem is. And it's interesting, Sophia just came upon something, and I think her talk was yesterday or today about this, so we'll touch on that as well. What stands between you and what you want to manifest? Anyone else?
I'll share my story. It's a little different. I've been working on the meditating before hearing Sophia, and physical improvement. I've been working on 2 other pillars this summer, and then been dealing with a personal family issue. So I came on all the calls like I always do, took my notes, but I didn't do the homework that way. I have 4 first level teams. I have 3 new execs and 1 each month. so I've been working with them on three-way calls and so forth, and just excuse me, working on that depth rather than contacting a whole bunch of new people.
Okay.
Just concentrating there and on the other couple areas that I mentioned. However, coming to these Monday nights and kind of pumping up the meditation and the exercise and just me getting back into alignment with myself. And then Saturday's event was a lock-in event for me. So I thought it was the best. I think they keep getting better. I do think personally, and several other people have said it, 6 stories and the length of time on a Saturday, it's a little long. And some feedback, might you consider 3 stories or maybe 4 stories and get it done a little bit shorter. I've sent it out to some of these teams and their members, their contacts that I've been, and it's a long time for people to look at if they weren't there in the moment because they didn't come for whatever.
Right.
They all have good reasons. Summertime, 4 kids at home doing things, whatever. And so I was a little disappointed in that with the time that I put into it, but that is some feedback to think about. And I don't know if
Well, we were actually 2 minutes under time for the time that we allocated.
No, I thought it moved along. I said it was the best
Yeah.
ever.
And there's always feedback concerning, is it too
Right.
long? But then, as you pointed out, it's an event. It's not.
know
It's
it
not
is.
a video. It's an
I know
event,
that.
live
And
event.
I understand it's a Zoom in, and actually the Zoom ins, I mean the fly-ins would have been a bigger event.
And
but
much longer. Yeah.
Exactly. Michael, I'm putting it into perspective of where people have been in the quarantine and finally having a summertime off or whatever. Just some of the feedback because. And I think some people are also feeling zoomed out, working at home Zoom, and kids at home Zoomed, and all the Zooming. And so it was just like another Saturday we've had every Saturday some kind of a Zoom, and some Saturdays 2 and 3. And so that's just that feedback. It's not in relation to.
Okay. Do you have numbers? Do you have something you want to give me in terms of numbers?
Well, my numbers is what you just mentioned. As I looked over the accomplishments of the first 6 months, I made progress. And the question you asked, the PGV is part of that. It isn't all my retail sales. I have 4 teams that are working, and they're working, towards their growth. And so anyway, so I'm feeling good about it.
By the way, I think that's important to note for those of you who are looking at the incentive program.
Yeah.
To have four independent teams that Madeline's working with, new independent teams that she's sponsored, their volumes are contributing to her winning those achievements. So an easier way to win the achievement is to leverage the efforts of others.
Yes, that's a better way. And
Yes.
So that was, and again, watching others do the better way after me doing it for the past 4 years, it has really been good for me. So I would just like to comment, we have all these events on the NE Connect, and the regulars that are here, the regulars that are on the
I just want to stick to the task at hand right now.
Okay, so then the answer is the growth is there. And
Okay.
so how it motivated me is, since then, Sunday I took the day off, but today is actually Sunday evening and Saturday and whatever. I took some time off somewhere along the way, but I started making the contacts and following up with people. And so I think my manifestation is more now, not leading up to that event, but it's where I am now for the next one.
Okay.
So that's where the result is for me.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone want to chime in before we move on? This is really specific to this last event, the event on Saturday. So in terms of your intent, setting the intention and what you manifested, we're trying to create a bit of a data so we can look at that and further analyze that. Anyone?
Yoko. Okay.
Yes.
So my intention was to have 5 guests. I invited over 20. And I had 1 consultant guest. So it was not
Not a new guest per se.
New blood.
Okay.
But I was surprised I did manifest a new consultant.
Okay. Oh, wait, you manifested a new consultant?
No, in other words, that a new consultant of mine did attend that didn't say that they were going to attend.
I see. Okay. Okay.
But that's good for me because it got her a little bit more motivated. But more so, my intention also, sadly, was convoluted with wanting to get new consultants, which is happening just before and now. In other words, I have 2 people brewing.
Oh, okay. So I want to get to the analysis in a minute because I'm going to ask you all to look back on your results and tell us now. We're going to restate the formula and we're going to say, okay, where was the misalignment? What was not aligned? Anyone else? Okay, so let's go ahead into this. By the way, Stan, who's on the line, I thought Stan did a great job on our call Saturday. Thank you, Stan. Your story is always breathtaking, and you've added to it, and it's like, wow. So just please don't keep adding to it, Stan.
I'm sorry. I don't have my camera. It fell behind my desk.
It's good enough. You don't have to add to it. It's like really good. Okay. Okay. So let's pick up on, so Sophia, what you're hearing from your interpretation, and of course, whatever it is that you've experienced yourself by going through this process and your own intentions and manifestations. First of all, there's the first thing that I would expect is there's some disappointment, maybe some disillusionment, maybe some confusion. These would be typical things that I would expect from somebody who feels they did the part, but they didn't see the results as they would have expected. So have you had anything like that happen, Sophia?
Yes, definitely.
So
I'm trying to, well, let's just say hitting that 1,000 follower mark, that's not the first time I said that intention. I said it actually back in, I want to say April, or actually it might have been even earlier. It might have been like January, and I said it for May 1st. I gave myself way more time that first time, first of all.
good point.
And I said May 1st, 2020 is when I'm going to hit it. And I had it up on my mirror, the written thing. But even though I had that intention written on my mirror and I was seeing it every day, I was doing nothing about it. I was continuing to post on my page, like that hadn't changed. I was doing the things I'd always done, but I hadn't done anything different. I never stopped and put myself in the feeling of it already being done. I didn't take that time every single day to visualize what that would look like. You know, for like the first day or two I did it, and then after that I forgot about it. And then it was just sitting up on this affirmation, just sitting up on my mirror for like months. And on May 1st, I looked at it and I felt pretty crappy and I had to take it down because obviously I hadn't reached it yet. But that's why I would ask you, the first thing that came to my mind to ask you all, and just give me a show of hands here, is who tried something different than they've ever done before to recruit people? Okay, that's one hand. That's good, Mary. But that's just such a reflection of whether you are truly on the frequency that you need to be on. Are you getting new ideas? Are you trying different things? Are you in the unknown? Because if you're not receiving new insights and new ways of doing things, because you will intuitively start to be inspired and get new ideas. Like you saw in my page, just the leap in my content and how much it started changing. Even now, I feel like it's just like changing very rapidly because I'm staying in this like frequency of momentum. But that's how I knew that I was doing something right, was I started to get information from a way higher source. I started to think on a different vibration. And so which is what I'm hearing now is you guys, you know, you did what you've always done. So you got the results that you always got. It's because you didn't make that leap mentally and emotionally to the reality that you wanted to be at. And I'm also hearing, just from what I'm hearing and picking up in this conversation, is a lack of focus. Some people are like, oh, well, I was also focusing on this goal and that goal, and just that. And some of you didn't even invite as many people as you had intended to get. So how can you expect to get the number that you chose if you didn't even invite that many people, right? So that number has to be, you have to have tunnel vision, like literally laser focus on that number. That is the only thing that matters. And we had till from June 29th to July 18th. So that was like a 20-day period where you should have just had tunnel vision on that number. When I set my goal, it was about a month's time that I wanted to hit 1,000 followers. I would have had to gain over half of what I had gained in 8 months. So I had to like really quickly pick up the pace. Every single day, 1,000, that was it. I kept repeating to myself, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Every time I would meditate, I would see 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Like I literally drilled that number into my brain. And you have to be that focused, because it's like, if you're not focused, then all your energy is being spread out over like a spectrum of different things. But if you're focused on one thing, then all your energy is being concentrated on that one thing. And it's like a laser beam and you just draw it to you, right? So that's the way I look at it, is just like focusing your energy, concentrating it on one specific thing, and you just magnetize it that much faster. So especially because this was like a 20-day period, it wasn't like a super long period, which I actually think is sometimes better, because it can be daunting to set goals like way out in advance. And then, you know, you have to keep up with your practice every day. And so like, if you're doing this practice right, within the first week, you're going to start to feel different. You're going to start to feel like a completely different person. Like, it does not take long if you are consistent with it. And if you are really putting your whole energy into convincing yourself that you are a different person. It does not take long to make this shift. You will start to feel different very quickly. So
these are great points, Sophie. I'm just going to recap. Most important point here is I'm getting feedback. I'm not sure where it's coming from. The feeling that it's already being done. If you didn't have that feeling, or it seems like that may have not been the case, and we're going to get verification. I want everybody to speak on this, particularly those of you who actually put some results on the scoreboard, because that's an indicator. That's okay. If you put results on the scoreboard, then that tells you to some degree you were effective. So if you honed that, if you just honed that to a level of efficiency where you were much more efficient, much more effective, then you would be able to create greater manifestations. The key is ownership. You want to own this process so you can say verifiably, I did this. I made this happen. Because then we can expand what it is that you're going to make happen. Yoko, you wanted to say something?
Well, and Sophia, I just really wanted, I got a great new, I've been getting the new ideas. I lined up a new event, okay? A new way. I never did this before. I had 2 new people out of the woodwork that are now looking to be consultants. In other words, they weren't the call results, but they were the business results.
That's interesting, because that's also part of this, by the way. You will attract.
Yes.
So it's what are you attracting is important. Go ahead, Sophia.
I have a question. Were you meditating every day? What were you meditating on?
I was working off of your initial I am, and then I went into my, it's usually about a good 10-15 minutes of visualization and progression.
What did you see in your visualization?
Like you said, the progression ends with my visual and the feeling.
Mm-hmm. What exactly was your vision?
My vision is my team, my family, my home, my location, and then it becomes a very, I call it just a collage.
So your results reflected that vision. Your results reflected, you know, a growth in your business in general. However, if you had focused your intention on that specific number on July 18th, 2020, at this time for that call, that's what you would have manifested, was that number. It's like, for me, what I saw this whole experiment as was like an opportunity to choose a number and manifest that number. So like for me, when I did my page one, I chose a number and my whole attention and focus was on that number. I wasn't focused on like, oh, well, let me also get this much on my YouTube page and this much on my Facebook page. And while we're at it, let me manifest being a best-selling author and having the house of my dreams. And like, that was not even in the picture. Like for me, it was specifically this number on my page.
Focus.
And everything that came with that, meaning like how many, I saw like literally I would see myself connecting with 1,000 people. I would see like the network of people that I was connecting with. That was the only thing I was focusing on. And obviously other things would come from that. But in the actual manifestation, in my visualizations, that's the only thing I would focus on. So what you got, what your results were, you did it right. You know, you created what you were visualizing. However, it's just, if we're gonna do like a group intention kind of thing, it works really well if everyone is very focused on one specific intention, like creating a number for that call specifically.
I think this is really the point. Everybody is creating their own reality. And the goal here is for us to take stock of what it is that we created. One, for those of you who applied yourself, and to see to what degree would you say you were truthfully, fully applied. Because if you recall my story, when I talked about the goal that I had set, I came within 6 hours ahead of schedule on my achievement of Royal Diamond with so many variables that were way beyond my control. And the thing that I applied consistently was faith of a mustard seed, that I would not vary. I would do this experiment and I would be faithful to the end to this experiment, that it was not up to me to know how it was going to happen, but it was definitely up to me to be faithful to the outcome that I had envisioned. And so, and of course the results manifested, and that was over a period of 5 months. And I agree with Sophia. I think we give ourselves far too much time. It's harder to focus for longer periods of time with so many moving parts of our life happening. It can derail us and distract us, which is why I don't think silver should ever take anybody 90 days. It should be a focused effort. It's blink of an eye. It's a decision, boom, execute it. And by, you know, inside of a week's time, it's a done deal, because that's the intention. And then you not only set the intention, but you align your actions with that intention, and it all comes together. It's when we give ourselves too much time that we open the door to many other distractions and many other behaviors that could be in contradiction, in fact, to what it is that we're setting as an intention. The goal of this was not just to have a win for Saturday. The real goal, as it was for Sophia and as it was for me, was to own the law, to own it, so that there's nothing anyone could do to convince me that this law is not law, that is not a universal law, because I experienced it and I was faithful to it, and it actually took form the way the law says it would, the way it's been taught to me. So those of you who did not meditate every day, why? You don't have to answer me. You don't have to hold yourself accountable to me. You're the master. You're the creator of your own reality. Hold yourself accountable to yourself. Why would you not have done this every day if you were told? How would you behave if you believed that with 100% certainty that this would actually manifest the result that you were intending? Think about that. Think about that statement alone. If you knew with certainty this would manifest the outcome. That woman on the gurney in the Greg Braden video, Curing Cancer, where you watch a woman's cancer disappear in real time in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. How many people right now are showing up at chemotherapy religiously because their doctor said, if you don't do this, you're going to die? They'll do that, but they won't do this, the simple art of manifesting your own reality through the power of your intention. Think about it. How hoodwinked are we as a population that we would subscribe to a medical professional's limited knowledge of the human mechanism and not the knowledge of the divine that's been coming to us since the beginning of time, the dawn of ages. We've been taught the truth. And yet we would rather believe in hocus pocus. So think about this. If you take stock in this and you begin to apply this as you would religiously, anything that you have been applying for whatever reason of conviction, if you were to do this with the same degree of sincerity, 15 minutes a day, and as Sophia is giving us clear instruction, it can't be diluted. It can't be moving. Your image has to be clear and focused. The more clear, the more focused it is, the more you will begin to feel the sensations within yourself of the actual event having taken place. And you'll know because you'll feel it. And if you're not feeling it, if you're just feeling, oh, I'm feeling really relaxed and I want to fall asleep now, that's not the feeling of the person who just did the achievement. And you get in touch with the person who did the achievement, you're going to feel the feeling of the person who did the achievement. And that's the key, is how focused are you, whereby you are actually feeling the feeling. Then how will you know that it's working for you? Because you will start experiencing new drops, new data drops. You'll start getting new inspired ideas. You'll start getting connections to new people. Like, it's not something that you have to push and force. It will become self-evident. So if you're not getting the evidence of that, then just look at what's the discipline you're applying. Are you disciplined in your approach to manifesting the reality you want to create as much as you are in manifesting the reality you don't want to create? Now let me repeat that. Worry is a dress rehearsal for what you don't want to happen. How much of your energy goes into worry? If we were to measure the voltage of your emotions and the worry that and the time that you worry about whatever you worry about in a day or in a week, and we were quantifying that, we were going to say, this is the value of this is, 110 in this. How much, if that's 110, how much do you actually put into the manifesting of what you really want to create? And again, we go back to that idea, 5% conscious, 95% unconscious. Most people are putting a whole lot of energy into the unconscious manifestation of their current reality versus the 5% conscious manifestation. So there was a point I think, Barb, you wanted to make.
Well, I discovered a couple of things. As when we talked about the meditation before, and I made the analogy that everything was so busy, it was like the 401 on a Friday, everybody heading to the cottage. Well, that has settled down considerably, and I have found that I'm achieving more in my meditation by doing it at nighttime, and it's setting up my intention for the morning rather than awakening in the morning and trying to do it and thinking about all the other things that already are lined up for me to fulfill the commitments. So I'm not as busy at night, and I set the time aside every night, the same time. And I've been listening to a couple of different, well, Maureen Kozak mentioned the Honest Guys, and I have liked their meditations. And sometimes I don't play anything. I just have total peace and quiet, and I'm getting better. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm noticing a definite difference.
And the difference is manifesting, because there's no such thing as you not manifesting the difference. That's impossible. The law is expressed through you. Therefore, whatever you're noticing on the outside is a reflection of what's going on the inside. You can always know what's going on the inside when you look at the outside. So
well, I'm definitely finding more focus and less traffic.
It's very important that we take the time that we've gone through this exercise, if nothing more than to take your awareness to the next level of, oh, wait, maybe, you know what? I didn't do those exercises every day. And, oh, I didn't focus on that number and so forth. if you can identify where you were not in alignment, you were still in the process of manifestation regardless. The question is, did you manifest what you wanted, or did you manifest what you were manifesting based on your varied intentions? So it's a matter of focusing that like a laser beam. There's one thing I want to get to, but before we get to that, I want to ask Leo a question. Leo, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh,
You're one of the top producers in Canada and North America all the time. So I'm curious, what do you intend every morning? When you get out of bed and you start your day, what are you intending to happen in that day? What, with respect to your Niken business? If there was one thing that you intend to happen that day, what is that one thing?
Made a new contact every day.
That's it. I knew he was going to say that. Do you know how I knew he was going to say that? Because his results reflect that. Every day, he's meeting somebody new. Every day, consistently. And it shows up on the scoreboard. I see the numbers at the end of the month, and I know, well, Leo's been busy. He's always busy because he's always intending to meet somebody new every day. He's meeting somebody new every day. That translates into a customer or consultant. That shows up as volume on the scoreboard, and I see him. He's winning the contest all the time. So it's really easy for me to know where his intentions are because I see the scoreboard. And I'm sure he doesn't need that much guidance where that's concerned because he's leading the field. Maybe his goals need to increase. Maybe your goals need to increase now, Leo.
Actually, Michael,
you're already good at
Thursday night,
manifesting. Maybe you just need to expand that a bit. You were
he
saying,
has
Madeline?
on Thursday. Well, on Thursday night, he was on the Better Way. And so he's always so quiet. So I asked him at the end if he would share, what is his goal? What is his intent? And he said, Team Tai Chi. It wasn't
Beautiful.
one contact today. It was Team Tai Chi.
Team Tai Chi.
A
So
what?
Team
What?
Tai Chi. You said Team Tai Chi.
now
Yeah.
there's no reason why you can't achieve that. Now, all you need to do is get really clear, focus, look at the numbers, look at what it takes and see that, I don't know how you would manifest it. Maybe I would imagine a scoreboard. I mean, my mind would actually think of a scoreboard and I would see the number on the scoreboard. Some version in my mind of how this shows up in real life. And then I get in touch with that feeling. Now, we just have a few minutes here that I want to switch gears for a second and go to bigger picture stuff. So there's a reason why some of you didn't do the work. And there's a reason why those of you who did the work didn't do it all the way. Because if you knew without a doubt that you could create whatever outcome you wanted, why wouldn't you do it? It's either a lack of conviction, a lack of belief, or maybe it's just the program getting in the way. My guess is it's maybe a little bit of everything, but there's something even more fundamental that we could strip it down to even something more fundamental. What stands between you and what you want in life in general? Sophia, I want you to speak to that because that was your talk this week.
Okay. Yeah, this was just information that came into my field this week that I felt was very powerful and very strong. Essentially, I can even talk about it branching from personal and moving out to more general, but with this goal specifically, the reason why he just said some of you weren't consistent with the work or weren't very focused on your intention was because you didn't really believe in yourself, in your ability to manifest. And we have to ask ourselves, why do we have this lack of a belief in ourselves? Is it possibly because for our whole lives we've been told that we're not enough and that we're not worthy and that you can't do this and you can't do that and you're limited by this and you're limited by that? Our whole lives, all we've been taught is that we're limited. And that has been displayed through us through experiences that we've attracted to ourselves, experiences that have hurt us and degraded our self-confidence and our, I want to say like our love for ourselves, because when you truly like love yourself, you just want to give all that you are into everything that you do. right? You're so full in yourself that it just expresses itself out naturally. So what is it in our lives that has caused us to doubt ourselves so much? And I think a lot of us have these underlying painful experiences, and a lot of these things come from our childhood programming, and, you know, constantly feeling like we need to live up to something, or we were not good enough, or we were not heard as a child. It could be any of these things, but the tool that I'm going to give you today to help you transcend all of that is forgiveness. This is a message that came into my field this week, was that the only thing that is stopping you from manifesting quickly, because manifestations should not take long. This is your God-given ability. This is what's most natural to you. The only thing that is stopping you is a lack of forgiveness. And this is how I've kind of understood it, is because in order for us to become the person that we want to be, the ideal me, we have to first let go of who we are currently. And it's easy for us to, you know, look at that person and all the things they have, right, and envision that life. But what are the underlying things, the underlying pains and subconscious beliefs and limiting beliefs that are keeping us in the current reality? They're all the things that have hurt us. You know, they're all the things that have caused us pain. They're all the things that have told us that we're not enough and that we can't go there, that we don't deserve to go there, or that, you know, we don't have the skills and the talents to go there. And so that's why the thing that sets us free from this reality, from who you are now, is the ability to forgive everyone in your life who you hold anger and resentment against. To forgive anyone in your life who has ever made you feel less than. Like, truly forgive them, because, you know, other people are simply reflections of ourselves. So when we give ourselves that gift of letting go, essentially what you do in forgiveness is you're telling yourself, like, that's not who I am anymore, that this is not my identity anymore. This is not who this is how I see it. Like, when you forgive someone or a situation or an event that's happened to you that's caused you pain, it's just an acknowledgement that this identity I've created around this person and this pain and this event, this does not define me. That's not who I am. That's not who I choose to be going forward. This story right here is not my story any longer. And that's how we really, like, set ourselves free from the subconscious beliefs that are keeping us where we are. These things run deep, and we might not even understand all of them, because, like I said, a lot come from childhood, but I think that we don't need to understand them all in order to forgive them.
So this brings up the question again, are you defined by a vision of the future, or are you defined by a vision of the past? Is it the future, which is the conscious mind creating, or is it the subconscious mind that's doing the work right now, that's manifesting or blocking you from seeing that future reality because you're tied to the past? You're manifesting and remanifesting a version of yourself that is not in harmony with the version of yourself that you visualize yourself in the future tense to be coming into the present tense. So this is critical. I mean, this is the work. When people refer to the spiritual work, when you look at people who talk about the dark night of the soul, which the planet is right now coming into, when we look at that, what does that actually mean? It means you are going through a period of time where you will rebirth. You will be discarding things that you have been holding on to that have defined you. I remember my friend used to say, well, it's my rock. You know, he's dropping to the bottom of the ocean, holding onto his rock, and he's arguing all the way down. Well, it's my rock. So we want to let go of the rock.
Yeah.
And so many people, you're not thinking about this on a conscious level. You're not thinking about the pain that people have caused you. You're not thinking about the ills that you might have towards somebody. And one way to be clear about this is, who is that somebody? Pick somebody, one of many maybe, but pick a person that you have some resentment towards and forgive them. They don't have to be in your face to do that. That doesn't mean what they did or didn't do was less, or you're not saying that it was right or wrong what they did or didn't do. You're just cutting the cord that ties you to that rock so that you're free of that, the weight of that rock, to be free, the new you, the you that doesn't have an attachment to that thing anymore. This is,
Mike, if I can say something about that, I realized that I had a whole bucket of resentment inside me and that it was blocking me from doing a lot of things. And it was resentment towards the physician that caused Wayne's death. And every time I saw him, I wanted to run him down with my car or kick his dogs. I just had this feeling well up in my stomach that it would literally make me feel physically sick. So during COVID, I registered for a course online to deal with blocks. And one of the classes, it was with Mary Morrissey. And one of the classes was addressing resentment. I can walk past that doctor now and his dogs and feel nothing. But it's taken me 7 years to get to the point to recognize what was holding me back and how much resentment I was feeling because of what he did and because of what I lost due to his actions.
now, is there something we can do that shortens the time for you having to uncover what's holding you back and then having to deal with it, process it, and then relieve yourself of it? Is there something you can do? Is there something, Sophia?
Well,
you
if
got a
I had
technique?
done what Sophia was talking about, instead of taking that 8-week course, I'd have been there sooner. I don't feel resentment towards him, but I realize that there's some emotion still in there, but it's not the deep resentment that would make me ill.
Okay, so we've got short of time here, Sophia. I have an answer. I want to hear your answer.
I don't know if I'm going to give the answer like you're thinking, because
No. I have my own answer. What's your answer?
Because truly, I don't believe that this process is one that ever ends. Like, forgiveness is an everyday thing. I have to forgive every single day, every time somebody triggers me or annoys me that day or angers me that day or blocks me on Instagram that day. So every night, this is what I would say you can do, is we just have to kind of rewire ourselves to forgive instead of hold resentment. We have to rewire our way of thinking about other people, and therefore thinking about ourselves, right? It's one and the same. So an exercise that you can do that was given to me through like this message that I listened to was to imagine yourself washing the feet of that person who hurt you. And it may take a very long time before you're able to get through this whole foot washing ceremony without feeling some sort of anger or resentment towards them. But that is the work, is every single day you have to forgive. It's like layers, right? Layers of an onion. Like you have to continue with it, or else you will quickly fall back into the program that says, F them, they don't deserve any of my whatever. We're so quick to step into like that vengeful mode because that's really the way we've been indoctrinated in our culture. Our society is programmed this way for a reason. It's intentionally done that way to keep us divided and to keep us separate. So we have to work every single day as you're going to bed at night. I've been doing this ever since I got this like information come to me. Every single night when I go to bed, I imagine myself washing the feet of every single person who annoyed me that day. And if there's someone who, like Barbara, you have like kind of a long-standing resentment towards, do it with them every single night as well when you go to sleep. And slowly you're going to start to create the pathways in your brain that say, forgiveness is natural for me. Forgiveness is what I lean towards before vengefulness, right? Before resentment, I go to forgiveness, because you're just creating a habit of constantly forgiving, constantly letting go, constantly renewing yourself. So that's the answer that I would give, is to just make it an everyday practice.
Well, I will certainly give it a try. I mean, I've forgiven other people with no problem at all, but it was just this particular person, and you know, the impact on all our lives, the whole family. I had to deal with it.
I think
Trust me, we all have that one person. We all have that one person, and that one person is there to serve that specific purpose, to teach you forgiveness. Because it's a lot of us have like things that are it's like, oh yeah, I can just forgive them so easily. But then there's always that one thing that seems literally unforgivable. And that is the true test. Can you forgive the unforgivable? Can you love unconditionally?
And when you open up the conduit, and when you open yourself up to that, think about it. The lack of forgiveness is the valve closed. Forgiveness is opening the valve, and the valve is the conduit through which love can flow, and love is the elixir of the universe. It's what is the force and the power of the universe. So when you allow yourself to be a conduit by being a wide open channel, that means you don't harbor resentment. You don't have resistance within you to the flow of love, resistance that would be in opposition to love, which is resentment and anger and hate, those vibes. The other way of, and by the way, Sophia, that's the perfect answer. The only thing I would add to that is, when is it that you know for certain you're not feeling that? When you're not your personality. When you step out of your personality, again, this is a daily thing. So what she's talking about practicing in a daily ritual, if you will, you know, the ages have called this meditation or prayer, but maybe you could add to your meditation, to your prayer, the art of forgiveness, this component to it, where you start to dissolve all the fear and the resentment to the people who have had a negative impact on you until now. We call it a negative impact, but they've had an impact and we've personified as negative, but we're going to get out of our personality. We're going to move to a higher personality, the personality that is the forgiving person, the one that does not see, that sees the divine nature of everyone and everything. Now, those of us who've been in Humans Being More, silver training with Nikan, we did the inner child work. That's often what this refers to is, you know, imagine yourself as a little kid playing in the play box with that other person who's a little kid. And if you guys were in the play box together as little kids don't harbor resentment. They just get angry, they push each other around, they get back to work, and then they start playing again, having fun again. They just don't harbor resentment. It's only we as adults that have been, you know, defined by those wounds, and they've been nursed by the situations and whatever the program has inspired in us. To work our way out of this program is not a job that happens in a moment. To work our way out of this program is, like Sophia said, it's every day of our life, because the program is all around us. And as long as you're on this planet, there's a program. So the question is not to eradicate the program, it's how do I process the information within my life? How do I stay true to who I am and who it is that I wish to see myself as? And then there is an element to this that I want to throw out there in the last minute that we have. Nothing of a lower frequency can harm anything of a higher frequency. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing. No virus, no disease, no illness, none of those things are possible. Those are frequencies. And when you're above those frequencies, you are not of those frequencies. You are not susceptible to those frequencies. So if you want the cure all to all things, it's raise your vibration. And to do that, you must release the attachment to the fear surrounding the thing. So how do I release the attachment to the fear around the thing? When I see others susceptible to the thing, I see others falling to the thing. Does that mean the thing has power over me, or that the thing has power over them? What's being demonstrated? You create your own reality. Raise your vibration to a point where you understand nothing has power over you unless you give it to it. And that's a truth of all truths. So when you become one with the power of life and living and health and prosperity and abundance, you will see every day of your life that you intend to be here for. And you will see abundance and health, and you'll experience that because you're in alignment with it. You will not fall short of why you came here and what you're doing here. You will live fearlessly, and you will live instead of tiptoeing through life, hoping to make it safely through to death, as my friend Bob Proctor would say. We can't afford to do that. There's many people in the world right now, and many coming, who are going to be in shell shock as the awakening is taking place. And they're going to need people like us who have tools to help them get past where they're at. You know, one of the tools might just be simply hydration. That's a big one, by the way. You realize your body is 70% water, and everything that connects everything that's living is water. And therefore, water is a conduit, a frequency, a conduit that we can send intention into. And so healthy water is a very, very important part of the vibrational experience. Magnetism, the magnetics that we have, as we are seeing a rapid decline in the Earth's magnetic field, by the way, is becoming more critical to our ability to stabilize our well-being. So what we have to offer in the way of products is second to none. We don't have to go looking anywhere. We have enough to work with. What we have to offer by way of a business that creates community, is where we're going in our unity consciousness. And what we have to offer in the way of a philosophy is steeped in truth of the ages. And so, and they're going to experience that as they become part of our dialogue. So what we have is the best kept secret. Now, if we could just get into alignment with that, we would have no fear talking to anyone, anytime, and we'd be doing what Leo's doing, meeting new people every day. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Sophia, for your contribution, as always, brilliant and delightful. And as a father, I couldn't be absolutely more proud of who you are and who you're becoming. I want to thank my Nikan family here.
Off. You could take some Monday nights off, Michael. She's the best.
Okay, I'll take that to heart, Madeline. Thank you. I want to thank my Nikan family, because without you, I would lose my sense of purpose. And you guys remind me of why I do what I do. And I really cherish these times, these Monday nights. So take stock of what we talked about. Like, take a few minutes tonight before you just dismiss this call and really go through this mentally and emotionally. Look at what you could have done differently had you applied what you've been learning, where this process of this last Saturday's event was. Because as you become familiar with it, and you take ownership of it, you're going to become a master. And that's what we need. We need, you know, if Masuda did his job, there would be many more Masudas. If Christ did his job, there would be many more Christs. So let's just do our job and be the best we can be by taking these instructions to heart and applying them. So again, thank you everybody for joining. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you on the next call. Cheers.